Citizens, residents, and visitors, I greet you with great joy and delight on the attainment of 30 years of nationhood by our beloved country. I share with you the spirit of celebration and gratitude that has pervaded our nation throughout the month of September, during which we have been participating in a range of activities to mark this major milestone in our nation's history, and have been showcasing with great pride so much of our culture and our way of life. Indeed, the talents that have been on display during the course of this month provide ample testimony of the great strides we have made as a nation over the past 30 years. The theme of this year's independence celebrations, stability, creativity, and prosperity, provides a most fitting caption for the story of our progress as a people. Even a cursory look at the current state of our nation will reveal quite clearly and definitively that when the advancement of our people is measured by reference to these three standards that have been so aptly included in this year's theme, we not only score a passing grade, but we achieve a grade of distinction. In measuring our progress as a people, we must take cognizance of the squalor, high infant mortality, high death rates, and pervasive malnutrition, especially among our children, that was reported by the Moyne Commission when it visited our territory back in the 1930s. We must remember that as late as the 1950s, the vast majority of our people could not vote nor hold political office. This was a right reserved for the landed class, the people who owned the land on which we had toiled for centuries. It took many years of intense struggle by our people under the leadership of the Right Sir Excellent Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw to bring about the demise of this very unjust system. In measuring our progress as a people, we must also recall that the main reason for the failure of the West Indies Federation was the view among some of the larger countries of the West Indies that the small islands of the Federation, such as St. Kitts and Nevis, could not maintain themselves and would therefore draw upon the larger islands for succor and support. Indeed, even after many of our islands achieved independence, there was still considerable doubt expressed in relevant economic literature in relation to the viability of small island states such as those in the Caribbean region. It took great courage for our people to move forward into independence and nationhood. But we were determined, and we were confident in our worth as a people and in our own ability to advance and accelerate the wheels of economic progress. And so as early as 1975, the Labour government, under the astute leadership of the Right Excellent Sir Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, made independence a part of its manifesto and won the general elections by landslide on that basis. This initiated the struggle for independence, which was carried forward by our Labour leaders, all now deceased, the Right Excellent Sir Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, the Right Excellent Sir Caleb Azariah Paul Southwell, and Sir Lee Llewellyn Moore. Of course, there is also the Right Excellent Joseph Nathaniel France. It eventually culminated in the lowering of the Union Jack and the raising of our national flag on September the 19th, 1983, in the presence of Dr. the Right Honourable Sir Kennedy Alphonse Simmons, who was leading the country at the time and who had continued the pursuit of independence. Citizens, residents, and visitors, When my government came to office back in 1995, I was very conscious of the skepticism with which a number of regional scholars had written about the independence of Caribbean nations. I recall George Beckford in Persistent Poverty. He had argued that although the form of Caribbean society had changed with nationhood and modernization, the plantation economic structure was still very much intact. Indeed, for many regional scholars, writing decades after a number of Caribbean countries attained nationhood, political independence was a sham without economic independence. For them, with independence and nationhood, I quote, all had changed, yet nothing had changed, end of quote. My government was determined, very much determined, to make independence have true meaning for every citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. We knew that it would require bold decision-making and that small incremental step would not be enough. We decided to implement a comprehensive set of social and economic policies that would ensure that our nation take a quantum leap into the new century that was ahead of us when we assumed office in 1995. We have held firmly to the view that people must be the center of any successful development strategy. Consequently, our people have been the actors in the development process that we initiated here in 1995, and they have also been the object and, in fact, the purpose of our development effort. We could not see how it would be possible for our economy to make the required quantum leap in development if the majority of our young people were unemployed and in a state of frustration and disenchantment. We therefore implemented the short-term work experience program within 100 days of assuming office and opened up new vistas of opportunity for over 1,000 young people, by giving them the training and experience they required to secure for themselves a permanent place in the workforce and to unleash their immense talents and capabilities for personal advancement and for the good of our progressive nation. This, of course, was consistent with our philosophy that it is our people who must be the primary instrument of development, and the empowerment of our people through education, accessible health care, and other expansive social development programs is an important precondition for sustainable growth and development. And so, in keeping with this philosophy, we demolished the tattered, leaky, and dilapidated buildings that carried the name Joseph and France General Hospital and built in its place a brand new hospital offering spacious accommodation and state-of-the-art equipment and technologies for the benefit of the people throughout our federation. The hospital can now proudly carry the name of our distinguished national hero, the Right Excellent Sir Joseph Nathaniel France. We also reconstructed the Poxon Hospital in Sandy Point and made it a center of excellence in community medicine and in the fight against HIV/AIDS. In the area of education, we sought to bridge the technological divide by distributing free laptop computers in our schools so that our school children, rich and poor alike, would benefit from the world of information and opportunity that may be accessed through the use of computers. We have also expanded the financial resources available to our students through the Development Bank, commercial banks, and Social Security so that more of our young people could pursue the careers or professions of their own choice. At the same time, we have negotiated scholarships with friendly governments so that our children could access tertiary education in Cuba, in Taiwan, in the United States of America, and Commonwealth countries, including Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia. Our aim, of course, is that every child successfully graduating high school in St. Kitts-Nevis would have easy access to professional training or tertiary education through loan financing or scholarships. We have also provided direct assistance to lower-income families through the provision of affordable subsidized housing and through the implementation of an impressive array of social development programs that give care, attention, and assistance to the aged, protect the abused and the vulnerable, provide school uniforms to children of low-income families, provide free textbooks and meals to school children, pay the examination fees for students sitting overseas examinations, assist poor families requiring medical attention overseas, and provide free health care to children and to the aged. We also made sure that even the lowest earners in our midst were provided increases in their income. Hence, since we assumed office, our minimum wage has increased by nearly 75%. The minimum pension paid by Social Security was increased by nearly 50%, and the non-contributory pension paid by Social Security to indigents was increased by about 100%. Moreover, we still have the minimum wage under review because we are determined that we will protect and improve the standard of living of the lowest paid workers among us. Citizens, residents, and visitors, this massive investment in our people has been accompanied by similar investment in our physical infrastructure. Our roads network was expanded and upgraded. Our air and seaports have been dramatically improved in terms of carrying capacity and the use of modern equipment and technologies. Our telecommunications and internet services have been revolutionized through the introduction of competition in the industry, and our electricity services continue to be improved through expansion, modernization, and enhanced reliability. Our quest to ensure that our nation takes a quantum leap forward determined to a large extent our approach to the hurricanes that visited our shores during the first half of our term in office. Our aim was not just to repair and rehabilitate the facilities damaged by the hurricanes, but to rebuild, to improve, to expand, and to modernize those very facilities. Hence, we did not just replace the pier at Port Zante, but we completely redesigned it and rebuilt it while securing the entire land reclamation facility through an extensive revetment program. Similarly, as I indicated earlier, our battered and tattered hospital was not repaired, but it was rebuilt, it was expanded, and it was modernized. In addition, for low-income families with substandard houses in guts and waterways, we did not merely patch up their homes and put them back in the gut side. We built brand new starter homes for them and for other poor families in various communities throughout our entire federation. We also accelerated our housing program, through which we constructed some 3,000 homes and increased our housing stock by at least 25%. Moreover, In recent years, we have also given duty concessions to low and middle income families to reduce the overall cost of their homes and permit them to qualify for loans at our financial institutions. These initiatives resulted in substantial increases in our national debt. This was not unexpected. I know it is easy for some policymakers to be disingenuous and to seek to take credit for the programs funded by debt, but to deny responsibility for the same debt. In our case, however, the government understood fully that in order to move our country forward and lift our people out of poverty and deprivation, we would have to increase the national debt. We knew that our people, empowered by the programs funded by debt and guided by the strategic leadership of the government, would find a way to reduce the debt. We were not prepared to retract from the massive initiative that we had mounted against poverty. We knew that development processes must be appropriately sequenced and that we had to focus on people development before taking on the challenge of fixing our balance sheet. Of course, my public comments in relation to debt were taken completely out of context, distorted, and broadcast throughout this country with a view to persuading people that I was insensitive to the risk associated with debt. However, the tremendous success we have had in reducing debt after attaining some of the key people-centered development objectives that we had set out ourselves to achieve testifies to the validity and efficacy of our own approach to development and debt management. Perhaps this is the reason why the comments attributed to me in relation to debt are no longer broadcast throughout the length and breadth of this country. There can be no doubt, therefore, that our people and our country have over the years made great strides in combating poverty and achieving greater prosperity. In addition, the hallmark of the development strategy implemented by successive Labour governments has been the boldness and the creativity that we have demonstrated. When we introduced comprehensive education here in St. Kitts-Nevis, it was viciously attacked, but nearly a half a century afterwards, it is being commended by the World Bank and other international development agencies and copied by developing countries all over the world, including some here in the Caribbean. Our short-term work experience program has been tailored and copied by countries within the region and beyond. Our program, by which we provide free laptops to students, is now under consideration in a number of Caribbean countries and is being tailored and adopted in a major Indian province. The Citizenship by Investment program, that has been subjected to fierce criticisms and attacks by political aspirants here in this country, has been tailored and copied by legislators in Antigua and Barbuda and is likely to be implemented very shortly. Similarly, Grenada has been exploring the possibility of introducing a Citizenship by Investment program. Indeed, even in Barbados, consideration is now being given to introducing a Citizenship by Investment program. Earlier this month, Nation News quoted the Prime Minister of Barbados as saying, and I quote, "The world is changing very quickly. We are in a competitive global environment, and we have to make sure that we always have a competitive edge if we are to be ahead of the game, as it were, and therefore that matter is receiving our attention," end of quote. The matter that he was referring to, that is the Prime Minister of Barbados, is the feasibility of introducing a citizenship by investment program in Barbados. And so I am pleased that we have been ahead of the game and others are now following. We took up a virtually defunct citizenship by investment program, restructured it, promoted it, and converted it into one of the primary sources of economic activity and human development in our federation, especially throughout a period when the Great Recession has been impacting the whole world and wreaking havoc on the finances of developed and developing countries alike. And so, citizens, residents and visitors, it is clear that our nation has made great progress in terms of prosperity and creativity. Our record in terms of stability is equally impressive. When crime threatened to get out of hand, I intervened. I intervened to appoint a new commissioner and embark upon a program aimed at upgrading the management of the police force, providing new facilities, modern technology and equipment to the security forces, and generally modernizing the security forces in our federation. I speak not only of the police force, I speak equally of the St. Kitts-Nevis Defense Force. The program is still ongoing and will be intensified as we seek to provide better accommodation, more training opportunities, and enhanced benefits for our security forces. We are pleased that this initiative is already bearing fruit and has resulted in a significant reduction in crime. The overall stability of our federation, in spite of systematic attempts by political aspirants to create confusion and foster public violence and mayhem, continues to attract numerous investors to our shores. Our ability to attract foreign direct investment has been unrivaled in the Caribbean region. Even now, Marriott is being expanded. Kittish Hill, it is under construction. Imperial Bay Resort, Ocean Grove Development, and Windswept Residence Club at Christophe Harbour are all under construction. Koi Hotel Resort is engaged in land preparation with a view to commencing construction quite shortly. And the Park Hyatt Hotel, Pelican Bay Hotel, and a range of other tourism-related facilities are well advanced in their plans to commence construction. But we cannot take the stability of our federation for granted. It is critical that we accord utmost respect to the Constitution and the laws of our federation if we are to continue to maintain a reputation for stability, a reputation for peace. In any democracy, there will be differing opinion and controversy from time to time. But in resolving these issues, we must always abide by the Constitution. For instance, in the issues pertaining to the vote of no confidence before Parliament and the constituency boundaries realignment approved by Parliament, I have sought the best available independent legal advice to ensure that at all times we uphold the Constitution of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We are now celebrating our 30th anniversary of independence. I think it is important for me to sound my voice above the political noise and state quite clearly to the nation my view in relation to these specific matters. Based on the advice I have received, I have formed the view that the drafters of the Constitution were deliberate, quite deliberate in their decision to avoid putting a deadline on the Parliament in respect of the consideration of a vote of no confidence. They understood that a vote of no confidence could possibly result in general elections within 3 months, 90 days, and that adequate preparations must be made before general elections are held. Specifically, a budget for the holding of elections must be in place. The voters' list must be up to date. The institutional arrangements for the holding of elections must be satisfactory, and all of the actions mandated by the Constitution to secure free and fair elections must be completed. One of the actions mandated by the Constitution is that the Constituency Boundaries Commission must review the boundaries and submit a report to the Governor General, I quote, at intervals of not less than 2 nor more than 5 years, end of quote. The Constitution did not give a discretion to the Parliament, nor to the Governor General, nor to any other authority whatsoever. It says quite clearly and unequivocally that it must be done no later than 5 years apart. The fact that it was not done by successive governments since the 1980s does not justify repeated and continued breaches of the Constitution. Our nation is now 30 years old, so that we are maturing as an independent country. We must therefore honor our Constitution and our laws. I do not agree with the political aspirants and their supporters who argue that we could ignore the very clear and definite time limit imposed by the Constitution in respect of boundaries, but that we must proceed immediately with the vote of no confidence, for which there is no time limit prescribed by the same Constitution. And so, citizens, residents and visitors, the requirement for boundaries reform is not just a trite administrative requirement as some would have us believe. I am convinced that it would be difficult to hold free and fair elections in St. Kitts and Nevis based on the existing boundaries. An analysis of the results of the last general elections reveals that if the People's Action Movement had achieved an additional 272 votes appropriately distributed in 2 critical constituencies, they would have won the same number of seats as the Labour Party in St. Kitts, although some 58% of the votes cast would have been in favour of Labour. This would have represented a gross denial of the right of the majority of the people on the island of St. Kitts to be governed by the government of their choice. This is a formula for confusion. The provision in the Constitution that requires that the constituencies be roughly equal in inhabitants, with a few exceptions, is intended to avoid such confusion. And so, as Prime Minister, except as directed by the court, which is the authority on the interpretation of the Constitution, I am not prepared to rush into general elections based on any formula that seems at variance with the Constitution and that could potentially create such anomaly and confusion. We must uphold our Constitution if we are to preserve our democracy. Of course, after 30 years of nationhood, there could be some changes to the Constitution if a sufficient number of our people require such change. For instance, some people have expressed the view that there should be a limited number of terms of office for the Prime Minister and possibly other representatives of Parliament. This is not a matter that does not require political controversy and conflict. There is a procedure for constitutional change which can be followed if that is the wish of the majority of our people. Indeed, a matter such as this one is not necessarily a political issue, and I certainly would be prepared in the next term of office to pursue this as a matter of conscience rather than politics if sufficient people express interest in this particular matter. But we cannot approach this matter by ignoring the current provisions of the Constitution and demanding the representatives duly elected by the people step down. Just simply step down abruptly and unceremoniously because some political aspirant, drunk with the taste of power, believes that it is now his turn. Even in the absence of constitutional amendments, good management practice dictates that political parties refresh themselves by initiating internal changes from time to time. That is why the slate of candidates identified by the Labour Party for the next general elections includes only 2 persons who were part of the winning team in 1995. And it is only a matter of time before the remaining 2 are replaced by younger and fresher personalities. This is the essence of succession planning. It involves bringing new people to the fore from time to time at a pace that would ensure that there is continuity in leadership and an appropriate blend of experience, energy, and innovation. It calls for springtime. In a democracy, a prime minister cannot properly choose a successor. Succession planning must take place in the political parties that contend for office because ultimately it is for the people of this country to decide on whom they would wish to elect as their prime minister or as their representatives. And so, citizens, residents and visitors, development is a never-ending process, and we must continuously strive to protect our achievements in relation to prosperity, creativity, stability, and all of the other goals that we have set for ourselves. I have summarized the great progress that we have made as a people over the last 30 years, and they are quite impressive indeed. In fact, in this term in office alone, we have halved our national debt. We have reduced crime. We have improved the reliability of electricity. We have gone into renewable energy initiatives. We've replaced all deficits in our fiscal account with healthy surpluses, and we've wiped out bank overdrafts with positive and substantial bank balances. It is not surprising that we have been labeled a high-income country by the international financial institutions. But we have not yet arrived. There is still much to do, as I reminded numerous thousands of our citizens, residents and friends at the Independence 30 Super Concert moments after midnight at Warner Park. Our immediate goal is to increase growth. I am confident. I am very confident that we have turned the corner in this regard, and that the numerous projects and initiatives that I have outlined here today will dramatically raise the level of economic activity. In addition, the double salary that was paid this month to government workers and any increase in the salary of government workers over the next few months will act as a fiscal stimulus. We are convinced that our public servants and our pensioners, they deserve to be rewarded for their outstanding service over the years. And we have therefore set in place the appropriate mechanisms to decide on a pay increase for government workers by year end. And so in closing, I invite you, my fellow citizens, my friends, our residents, to join me in giving thanks to the Almighty for taking us forward as a nation over the past 30 years. Let us, in a show of appreciation for the blessings conferred upon us by the Almighty God, devote more effort to pursuit of peace, love and harmony as we continue on the that road of nation building. I thank you. God bless you.